Hello students, I am Professor Isha Mendirata from LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. So in today's video, we will be discussing about the topic eye-shaped girders and viscosity. We'll be discussing a method wherein we can find out unknown viscosity of a fluid, or we can compare viscosities of two different fluids. If you have any queries, you can contact me on this email ID. Shall we start with our topic? Okay, so let us start with eye-shaped girders first. What is a girder? Girder is nothing but a support beam. Any beam which is used as a support in construction is known as a girder. Eye-shaped, the name eye-shaped because the cross-section of the beam is in the form of alphabet I. So it resembles the alphabet I. You can just see over here. This is the flange of the beam. This is called the web of the beam, and this is again the second flange. So it resembles alphabet I, and that is why it is known as an eye-shaped girder. Girder basically is a beam which has upper cross section broader, middle cross section tapered, so that it can withstand heavy load over it. Here I have just tried to show a snap of a flyover under construction. You can see these all are nothing but the eye-shaped beams over here. What gives them strength? It is the depth of the beam that gives them strength, because if they do not have strength, they can sag like this. They can bend in the middle, or they can bend at one end if they are fixed at one end. So that depression would be very high if the load is high. So the beam needs to be stronger so that there is less depression. Now we had studied in the topic wherein our beam was fixed at one end and loaded at the other. So we had derived an equation for a rectangular cross section, and the equation of depression says y is equals to WL cube upon 3y BD cube. Here B is the breadth of the beam and D is the depth of the beam. Now suppose I want to use double the material. So suppose when I am doubling the material, I double the breadth. So what will happen? You will be having 2b in the denominator, that is 6y BD cube. So your depression will be reduced, but it will be reduced by 2 times. But suppose the same material, I am using double the material, and I double the material in the form of depth. I double the depth of the beam. Then I have a factor 24 in the denominator, which means my depression has reduced by 8 times. So this reduction will give strength, reduction in depression will give strength to our beam. So it is clear from the above equation that depression y is inversely proportional to cube of depth. So it will be more effective if we increase the depth rather than breadth. The I-beams also have a high moment of inertia, which gives them more stability. The two horizontal flanges, as I said, are flanges, the two horizontal parts, they bear high bending and shearing stresses. So this was all about the topic I-beam or eye-shaped girders. They are specific beams having a very high depth so that the depression is reduced and so that they have a more load-bearing capacity. Now let us discuss our second topic, that is viscosity. So what do you mean by viscosity? In general, viscosity means resistance of a fluid to motion, or you can say it is the property by which a fluid opposes the relative motion between its two layers. Now in the diagram what I have shown is I have considered a liquid in the form of different layers. Just consider water. Say water is flowing in this direction. Water is flowing like this. So this green colored arrows, they indicate there are different layers of water, wherein this is the layer which is the bottommost layer, and that is called the stationary layer. If you can see in the diagram, this is the velocity gradient diagram. You can see that the layer which is closest to the stationary layer has the least velocity. As you move away from the stationary layer, the velocity increases. Have you thought why? Let me tell you. Suppose I have considered a layer having velocity v. So according to what I said, the layer which is below this layer will have a lesser velocity. The layer which is above this layer will have a higher velocity. So below v I have v minus dv, above v I have v plus dv. Suppose I say the distance of the layer with velocity v from the stationary layer is x. So similarly, I can say the layer having velocity v plus dv will be at a distance x plus dx. The layer having velocity v minus dv will be at a distance x minus dx. Now, this layer is trying, my layer v is trying to move in this direction. The layer which is just below it will try to drag it in opposite direction, thereby creating a friction. And this friction, so it is dragging it behind, and that friction creates a force which is known as a viscous force. The more close you go towards the stationary layer, the viscous force will increase, and that is the reason you see that velocity is less. The more away you go from the stationary layer, the friction force will decrease and velocity will increase. Why? Because slowly the velocity is increasing. Why is it increasing? Because the friction is decreasing, because you are moving away from the stationary layers. So these layers actually slide one above the other. So basically viscosity determines internal friction of a fluid also. Some examples of viscous fluids, you can say honey, glycerine. These are some examples of viscous fluids. Now let us see what coefficient of viscosity is. So it was shown by Newton that this backward dragging force, why do we call backward dragging force? Because suppose we consider any one layer, the layer beneath it will drag the upper layer in opposite direction. So because of this, the backward dragging force, which is also called the viscous force, it acts tangentially on any fluid and is directly proportional to surface area A, directly proportional to v, that is velocity, but it is inversely proportional to the distance x. If the distance from stationary layer increases, the force is going to decrease, and that is the reason velocity increases. So combining all three relations, I can say that force is equals to minus AV upon x, where A is the cross-sectional area, V is the velocity, and x is the distance from the stationary layer. So if I want to remove this proportionality sign, I define a constant which is known as eta. So F is equals to minus eta AV upon x, where eta is known as the coefficient of viscosity. The units are Newton second per meter square, or you can say dyne second per centimeter square. The value of this viscous force is not very large, so it is generally measured in CGS, that is dyne per centimeter square, and this is known as poise. Now let us move on to the method. Now let us discuss what the definition of viscosity says. So now we have seen in this diagram that between any two layers, the velocity difference is less. They have a very small difference in velocities, and that is the reason instead of using directly the velocity, we define a gradient which is known as velocity gradient dv by dx. So what I do is I make a small change in this equation. Instead of minus eta AV upon x, I will write F is equals to minus eta A dv by dx. Again, I am repeating, this negative sign only indicates that velocity is in the opposite direction of dragging force, or the dragging force drags it opposite to velocity. So this indicates the opposite direction. Now this equation is known as the Newton's law of viscous fluids for a streamlined motion. So if I want to define the coefficient of viscosity, how can I define? What will I do is I will just consider dv, A and dx. If I say all these parameters are unity, all these parameters are 1, I can define eta as the tangential force acting. So the coefficient of viscosity is defined as the tangential force per unit area which is required to maintain unit relative velocity between two layers which are unit distance apart. So cross section area is unity, velocity, relative velocity should be unit relative velocity, and the distance also should be unity between the two layers. So this is how you define the viscous force is equal to coefficient of viscosity. Now let's move on to the method through which we can find out unknown viscosity of a fluid. So here there is a setup. This setup is known as Ostwald's viscometer. It consists of two bulbs labeled A and B. The two bulbs are connected by a U-tube, and in between them there is a capillary tube. The bulb A is connected to a container through which fluid is inserted. The bulb B is connected to a side tube which is controlled by a stopper. And this entire setup is placed in a temperature bath so that temperature is maintained. Now how does it work? This is the input source. So from here, suppose we want to measure the unknown viscosity of a fluid. So that fluid is filled using this open-ended tube. So this will pass through the bulb A, it will pass through the capillary, this U tube, and it will fill up bulb B. So how long you will just put this liquid inside, pour this liquid inside till your liquid reaches the mark P. The moment it reaches the mark P, you have to stop the input and then you have to open the stopper. What happens if you open the stopper? It's a sort of pressure release. So if you open this, what will happen? Slowly the liquid is going to move till here. So initially you fill the bulb A, you close the input, then you open the stopper B. You open the stopper B, the liquid is moving like this. It will reach the value P. The moment it reaches P, you have to close the stopper. When you close the stopper, what happens? The liquid will again go back in the opposite direction. So it starts going in the opposite direction. The moment it reaches Q, you have to close the stopper. I repeat again. Keep the stopper closed, fill up the bulb A, stop the input, open the stopper, the liquid will start filling up bulb B. You have to keep open the stopper till the liquid reaches point P. The moment your liquid has reached P, you have to close the stopper. Slowly it will come back in the opposite direction. So the time it takes to reach from P to Q will give us the measure of viscosity. This is the entire setup. Let us see how is it done. So this is done using a standard equation which is known as Poiseuille's equation, which states that velocity is equals to pi p r raised to 4 upon 8 eta L, where P is the pressure difference across capillary, R is the radius of capillary, L is the length of capillary, and eta is the coefficient of viscosity we need to measure. Now I can say that this pressure difference, the pressure difference across the capillaries. So this pressure difference across the capillaries, if I say the liquid is having more density, higher the density, higher time will it take to move here. So higher will be the pressure difference across the 2 points. So I can say that the pressure difference is directly proportional to the densities, P proportional to rho. So instead of the term P, I can write rho over here. So my equation will be V is equals to pi rho r raised to 4 upon 8 eta L. So now what I have done is I have compared the rates of both the fluids. Now out of the two fluids, suppose I say V, velocity, and eta is known. You have to find out eta dash, or both of them are unknown. You just need to compare. So V upon V dash will be equal to pi rho r raised to 4 upon 8 eta L. This is the equation of V, and this is the equation of V dash, wherein all the you cancel all the common terms. You are left with V upon V dash is equals to rho upon eta whole upon rho dash upon eta dash. Now keeping this equation in mind, I say that V upon V dash, velocity inversely varies with time. If velocity of the fluid is more, the time taken to reach from P to Q will be less. So instead of V by V dash, I can write T dash by T. So T dash by T is equals to rho upon eta whole upon rho dash upon eta dash. So this can give me the value of eta dash upon eta as rho dash T dash upon rho T. Now suppose you want to compare both of them. So densities of the fluids are known, and this time interval you can measure by the setup. So that will give you comparison of two viscosities. Or suppose you know the value of eta. One liquid is known, the other viscosity you have to find out. So you can simply multiply with eta, so you can find out the value of eta dash. So this is how either the setup is used to compare two viscosities or to find out unknown viscosity. This was all about Ostwald's viscometer and the topic viscosity. So I end today's video here. For any queries, you can get back to me on my email ID. Thank you.